Cancer. Welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for March of 2022. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
I'm Julia Mijas in Pioneer, California.
Well, Cancer, last month's themes around intimacy are lingering into this month. So if you're still trying to sort out your debt situation or have that difficult conversation with somebody that you're close to, it's not too late to get unstuck with the help of a natal and transit reading, which you can get in the YouTube description below, or a lifelong love reading focusing on your relationships. Well, Ceres is in Gemini all month. I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about Juno. So here's Ceres in Gemini traveling along through the 12th house. Ceres is all about the things that connect us with the physical world, our physical bodies, the food we put into them, and the money we make to sustain them. And so Ceres is like the gardener, the farmer, the steward of the chart. And wherever Ceres goes, it's really good to apply good stewardship to that area. Now, Ceres is in your 12th house, which is the realm of spirit, of dreams, of imagination, of art, and retreat from the world. So I have two thoughts about this. One is, become a better steward of your spiritual life. Get more organized, perhaps more grounded, and let go of aspects of your spiritual life that are not working for you, and grow and cultivate the ones that are. So that's my first thought. My second thought is, this is a really great transit for getting out into nature and experiencing through your physical body the wonders and the lovely sensations of the natural world, and experiencing that in a spiritual way. Who was it? Thoreau, who said, like, the woods are my church.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's sort of a feel. I think that's really sweet. Ceres is going to be in your 12th house for another couple of months until the middle of May. So you have plenty of time to try this stuff out. The other planet I want to talk about is Juno, another asteroid in the asteroid belt. These two are the two largest ones. Juno is traveling along through Aquarius right now and will be in your 8th house for another month and a half or so. And Juno is like the social maven. You might think of her as your social director. She's a kind of a matchmaker. She is a matriarch. She likes to form warm connections between yourself and other people, or among the other people in your life, especially if those warm connections would strengthen the social fabric that's around you. So Juno in the 8th house, and Juno is definitely a goddess of marriage and committed relationships, which means business partnerships as well as marriages. Juno in the 8th house really takes this archetype into the realm of like the deep, intimate, maybe heavy emotional stuff. So this is a really great transit for having like deep conversations with your spouse or your live-in partner. It's also a really good time for having those kind of conversations with your business partner about how is the money working? Does our business need to borrow? If we're going to do that, what does that look like? How do we share the responsibility for that? How do we share the burden for that? And how do we share the wealth that we generate together? So those kind of conversations about monies shared between you and your partner, this is a really good time for those. Hey, Julia, I know you have stuff for the Cancers of the world about Venus and Mars and Mercury this month. What's that?
Oh, there's a lot going on in that department. Hey there, Cancer. Let's begin with Venus and Mars, because these guys have been traveling together pretty much all year. And this March, they're going to continue to do so. Mostly for the first 5 days of the month, Venus and Mars are going to be in your 7th house. And Jamie and I covered that cycle really, really well in our last month's video when they were there for more of the month. So you can check that out to hear a little bit about that transit as a refresher. But after the 5th, with, Venus and Mars are going to be entering your 8th house, and they're both going to be there for the rest of the month. So these two planets have really different functions in astrology. Venus is a relationship planet. She gets what she wants by attracting things to her. So therefore, she's associated with beauty and peace and harmony and pleasure. Mars is the action hero in you. So it's a planet that represents your drive. Wherever you have it is where you can be very driven that month. Mars can be a little more challenging than Venus, only because it's a bit conflict prone too. So Mars can also show you where you're going to be irritable that month as well. So with Venus and Mars pretty much in your 8th house for most of the month, the 8th house being the house of other people's money, which means the money that you share with people close to you, like family through an inheritance or joint credit card, or institutions like banks. And maybe that money would be loans, mortgages, taxes, all of that kind of stuff. So I'll take these two pieces and handle them one at a time. Venus in the 8th house is adding a little bit of luck and pleasure. You know, the 8th house is also the house of psychology. It's a very sort of like, it's a very psychological place. So Venus in the 8th house is a wonderful transit, especially if you are, in therapy, or you're doing any other type of healing art. It can be a wonderful time for sort of facing your shadow side and not being so scared of it, so that you can make those breakthroughs. Venus in the 8th also means that, maybe you attract a little money luck to you too this month. Maybe your partner, because the 8th house is other people's money, maybe your partner gets a promotion and shares a little of it with you, for example. Now, Mars is definitely a very different planet than Venus. Mars in the 8th can be a time where you might feel very driven in all things 8th house. So that could also mean, since the 8th house is the house of mysteries, that you're very focused on solving some kind of maybe researching or investigating some matter in your life, whether it's your professional life, whether it's in school or your personal life. You might be very driven to get to the bottom of something with Mars in the 8th. And because I mentioned Mars can be a little bit feisty, a little bit conflict prone, one of the challenges of Mars in the 8th can sometimes mean that there can be some disagreements with other people over money. But a very constructive use, I think, of Mars in the 8th is maybe if you want to use that energy and drive to see how you can increase maybe money that you make through a bank, or like I said earlier, really getting to the bottom of something and getting some good research done. Now, Venus is also moving direct and fast this month. She's just finished up a whole retrograde cycle where this winter we were all reviewing our relationships. And now that she's moving fast and direct this spring, that should really smooth out everything on the relationship front, which is really good news for everybody. And then the last planet I want to talk about is Mercury. That planet rules your mind. Wherever we have Mercury is where we expend a lot of mental energy, and also where we might have an increase of communication in our life, because that's another aspect of Mercury. So Mercury by March 9th is going to be entering your 9th house. Now, the 9th house is the house of education. Mercury is a planet that loves to learn. So really great transit for all the Cancers out there who are in school, who are learning different things, or if you're taking some workshops or other types of professional development, really wonderful transit for that. The 9th house is also a travel house, and Mercury is a planet that loves to move around. So either you might have some kind of fun trip coming up soon with Mercury in the 9th, or maybe this is a time where you're really preoccupied with faraway places. Maybe now that the world is beginning to normalize a little bit more, we're starting to think of doing the travel that we used to do. Cancers usually are a home-loving sign, but, we've been home a lot in the last few years, and maybe it's time to think elsewhere.
It's possible to have too much of a good thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I want to tell you about the moons going on this month. The first of these is the new moon in Pisces, happening in your 9th house. And these moons are happening across what might be called the axis of communication. The 9th house having to do with your big voice, the 3rd house having to do with your small, everyday voice. So, and new moons have to do with the planting of seeds. Things that are planted in darkness and can grow into something by the time the full moon happens, but you don't see results of it right away. So the new moon in Pisces has such a compassionate feel, and this particular one involves Jupiter being right here with the moon and sun as well. And so there's this feeling of generosity and warmth and charity and giving back that's really lovely with this moon. And these seeds are being planted in in your worldview, your perspective on life. So if you feel like you're something of a seeker and you're wanting to understand, what is the meaning of life? What's behind it all? What is my purpose? This new moon is a really good time to try something like prayer or meditation that will allow your mind to become still and quiet and to plant the seeds of ideas that may bear fruit around the full moon, which is coming around the 17th or 18th, depending on your time zone. And that places the moon in Virgo here in the third house, opposite the sun in Pisces in the ninth. Moon in Virgo and the third house, well, both of these things are ruled by Mercury. Virgo is, the third house is. It's a very cerebral place for the moon to be. And yet the moon is about emotions. So this may be about putting emotions into words, expressing your passion in language. So we have names for these moons. The first moon that I spoke of, we called Rationally Dreaming for the Collective because of its lovely connection to Uranus and the involvement of Jupiter. This second moon we're calling Realize Your Empathy Through Humble Practice, because when Pisces opposes Virgo, we have the pull towards empathy and compassion, and that's the Pisces side. But the Virgo moon wants to take that and do something with it that is real, that is actual, that is physical. And so putting in a little humble service is a great thing to do when the moon is in Virgo. And so that may be some of the outcome or the manifestation of the meditations and prayers that you find yourself wanting to do around the new moon. Now, then the last thing I want to tell you about is the seasonal shift. Here you can see that the sun is getting ready to leave Pisces, your ninth house, which I spoke to last month. Definitely a house of the seeker, of growth and expansion, also travel, and a fascination with all things exotic and strange. And so, but that season is ending now, and the sun is getting ready to move into Aries, and that means essentially the spring equinox, which is a time of rebirth and newness, very much saturated with the typical Aries, ruled by Mars, that freshness, that quality of hope, and the faith that things are going to progress, that they are going to get better. And so it's it really reminds me of spring cleaning, how we just want to get rid of the old and in with the new. And in your case, this is happening in your 10th house. So when the sun moves into Aries, it enters your career arena of life. And so as the spring comes on, it's really, really good for you to shine the sunlight of your high quality attention into your career arena and into the arena of your authority, your poise, your dignity, your excellence and expertise, so that can grow and that can thrive. And just use all of that amazing Aries drive and energy to forward things in your career during the season of Aries from about March 20 to about the 20th of April. And that's what we have for you today, Cancer. Hope you enjoyed it. You can find your horoscope for your other big sign. If this is your sun sign, then you can find your rising signs horoscope on our website, pandoraastrology.com, in the horoscopes tab. And if you're interested in seeing us for one of those readings, the natal and transit reading or the lifelong love reading, you can find us in the types of readings tab, which shows all of the many different kinds of readings that we do. Enables you to pick the one that you want and purchase it and schedule it too. And we also offer classes. So until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye-bye.
Bye.